G'day Bomber fans, we've got a little list update, SSP update. It's been a while since we talked about the Baldwin and the Will Hoare situation, but we got more to discuss, and it doesn't really involve, well, it kind of does involve them. It puts pressure on them, because according to the West Australian, Essendon have invited a 25-year-old forward by the name of Thomas Edwards from the WAFL to train for the available list spot that we have, the one available list spot, meaning we now have 3 players who could potentially be added to the list, or one of 3 players. We have 1 list spot available, 3 players training for it, and the cutoff date to sign one of these players is February 21st, so in exactly a month's time. So a new SSP hopeful, Tom Edwards, has 1 month to try and get ahead of Baldwin and Hoare. So let's talk about him. We obviously have a good track record from recruiting from the WAFL. We're going to talk about this guy as a player and his chances of getting that last list spot, and what it might mean for others on the list as well. So Tom Edwards, I'm going to say straight off the bat that I don't know much about him. I didn't know anything about him until this news came out. I didn't know who existed. I apologise. I don't follow the WAFL religiously when there aren't players that we already know about. That's fine though. I didn't know about Nick Martin either before he joined the club, and look at him now. But I did look into Edwards before filming this. Obviously, he's a 190 odd centimetre key forward, or forward, hybrid forward, I don't know. So he's slightly undersized, but he does make up for it with his marking ability. He's got a really good leap on him. The first thing you'll notice when you look into him is his knack for a specky. Most of his highlights are big marks inside 50, and that's probably a reason why we're considering him on our list, because our forward line isn't exactly known for its marking. I'll get to that later, but Edwards has made a name for himself as a goal-scoring third tall at Swan Districts over the years. Last year he kicked 39 goals from 19 games, including a haul of 6 and a couple of 4 as well. The year before he got 31 goals from 18 games. He's kicked over 100 goals from his 66 career matches or WAFL games. Edwards, he's kind of like a Bailey Fritsch type forward, but with less prowess and class in open play and a more natural marking ability. That's what makes him an awkward player to line up on. He's going to torch taller defenders on ground level, but he will make general backs work in the air. It's why he's a dangerous forward at reserves level. He kind of requires a very specific range of opposition defender size, which really helps the rest of his forward line and creates uncertainty in the opposition coach's box. And now this is at reserves level. Obviously it would be very different in the AFL, but all we have to go off is how he goes in the resis, which is where he is a great player. Tom Edwards has proven to be a really good reserves level player. He's 25 and he's only in the last 2 years or so really started to get going. And apparently, according to the West Australian, some other clubs were considering inviting him over to train as well. So he's not just someone who has caught the eyes of Essendon. Other clubs were keen on the 25-year-old as well, or potentially keen. That maybe gives a bit of credibility to the decision from Rosa and his crew. So the question now has to be, why are Essendon trying to get a key forward? We just picked one up in the draft. We got Nate Caddy, who's going to be a star of the future. Jones is around as well. Langford is a really similar type of player to Edwards. People will be asking why we need a key forward over a key defender, especially because the other 2 players trialling for the same list spot are key defenders. And maybe we see something in Edwards as a potential defender. I doubt it. I think he's training as a forward, so I think it should be noted that our forward structure has undergone a bit of change with Stringer, and maybe Stringer departing, I should say, and maybe this spells danger for Peter Wright. That is what some are saying online, but they're such different players. I can't really see him being used instead of Peter Wright. I almost think this could be insurance for Caddy and Langford, to be honest, just because the size of him. And that is what confuses me a little bit about this decision. I'm not saying I don't like it, but it confuses me. If we get Edwards in through the doors, it means that only one of our pure key forwards that have played footy, only one of them is above 195 centimetres. So although Edwards is a really good marking target for his size and he's got great hands, he's not really someone you'd be kicking the ball on the head of. Jones, Caddy, Langford and Edwards are all under 195 centimetres, so I don't think this is a Wright replacement kind of thing. I still think Wright is the main man in Scott's eyes until he isn't. He isn't trying to replace him right away, but maybe this does mean that Scott and co are trying to find new ways to shape up in this forward line, and maybe these hybrid forwards, not really a tall or a small, maybe this is what we want at our disposal. We see how hard it is for defenders to contain Langford, and maybe he wants another player like that at his disposal inside 50. I don't know. I don't really understand the decision, but I'm not surprised by it because we did see Laverty train up forward a bit in a recent match sim session. So we're clearly focusing on that forward line right now and finding ways to improve it. I think it makes more sense to bring in a new forward rather than move Laverty into that role. I will say though, this is just my opinion, not right or wrong, but I do think the area we need bolstered more is our defence. For starters, we have 4 key defenders that have played AFL footy in their careers. Mackay, Reid, Ridley and Laverty. Reid is he's barely played footy in his career. Hayes is coming through the VFL, yet to make his debut. So we currently have 5 key defenders on our list, which is a similar amount to our forwards, yes, but it's also our most injury-hit zone. Last year, we were cut super thin. Laverty had to play just about every game. We started the year without Reid and Ridley. You got Mackay, who's in rehab now. These guys are injury-prone. I was far from surprised when Baldwin and Hoare were invited to train with us, because we do actually need depth in defence. So us adding a forward to the mix is really interesting, because I feel like if we asked 100 Essendon fans, 90 would say that what we need for depth is a key defender. And also, our defenders are capable of playing forward if we need, not the other way around. So Laverty played a few seasons as a forward. Reid has actually played about half his AFL match span as a forward too, surprisingly. It didn't work, obviously, but he's done it. You can't say the same about our forwards. So if injuries decimated our forward line, we would have options to move magnets around. We could play Laverty as a forward, as we saw in training the other day. There are options for our defenders to play at forward, albeit pretty poor ones, but if our defence suffers injuries again in 2025, we don't really have any plan B. That's why, although I trust the club to make the right decision, I kind of hope that the decision they make is to add one of the defenders fighting for the list spot, which is why I really want to see them both perform at training. Hoare and Baldwin, unfortunately, they just aren't performing. They've had some good sessions here and there, but they aren't really doing enough right now to demand an AFL list spot. And if Edwards comes in and actually looks like he can play AFL footy instead of them, well, then we kind of have to sign him up. Obviously, I want the best of the 3 on our list, even if it's a forward, but I'm hoping that the best of those 3 is a key defender. We'll see, though. Edwards flies out to train this week, I think. I had it written down somewhere, but I forgot. And it does seem like we will make the decision after the practice match against the Bulldogs next month. I think all 3 will play there as a little trial. Yeah, that's all really. I don't know too much about this player, so I'm not going to yap on and go into detail. I am keen to learn more about him in the next few weeks, and I will bring you videos and updates when they're warranted. I'll probably do a little profile on all 3 and predict who I think will get the spot. Interesting situation, though. It's just been, well, I guess it was interesting to begin with Hoare and Baldwin, but this has really thrown a spanner in the works for those 2. It means the club isn't exactly thrilled with how they're tracking. It means we're thinking about different positions. I don't really properly understand it, but that's why I'm a YouTuber and not the guy making list decisions for the club. I've got full faith in Rosa that he'll make the right call. Let me know what you guys think down below. Like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new to the channel, and as always, go Bombers.